Hey everybody, Ben for the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to Print to Pitch. This is our series where we have a look at everything 3D printed for Blood Bowl, whether it's teams, star players, big guys, accessories, or stuff that is not made for Blood Bowl but will work very good for Blood Bowl. If it's 3D printed and we can use it, we're going to be looking at it. Now, it is time for one of the things I've been most excited about in a long time, and you guys will find out that you're not going to be surprised. It involves two of my favorite things in Blood Bowl: Brutefun Sculpts and Skaven. That's right, Brutefun has released part 1 of his Skaven team on his Patreon, and we are going to have a look at the STLs, we're going to have a look at the prints, and we're just going to be gushing about Skaven for the next 15 minutes. So buckle up, because this rat ogre is just beautiful. Okay, so the first part of the Skaven team, no, let's try this again. Okay, so Brutefun has slowed down his productions, and I think it's perfectly right. He's going to be releasing a team over 2 to 3 months now, and we've seen a lot of Patreons switch to this because it means they get more time to flesh out parts of the team, add star players, add staff, and just make it more reasonable. I don't know about you, but I don't need to print multiple teams every single month, so having a team release over the course of 2 or 3 months is, well, still much faster than I can paint them. And I think there's a lot of you out there who are going to be just as guilty of that as me. But Bruty has released part 1 of the team, and quite frankly, it's got all the bits you need to run the team anyway. So you can do the old mirror trick, and we'll have a look at that when we have a look at the STLs, and actually the prints as well, because you've got a full team's worth of Skaven here. We've got a thrower, and the thrower design is awesome. He's got a cannon shooting a ball, so kind of inspired by the Blood Bowl 2 aesthetic. Now, talking of aesthetic, this entire Skaven team has been built from Brutefun to have a clan scryer vibe to it. So that's one of the main clans in the Skaven lore, and they're the guys who are all about armor and technology. So your weird warp lightning stuff. So a lot of these guys are going to have augments. In fact, all of them have augments, either in the way of cybernetic legs or arms or claws, or like the thrower here, a big old gas tank on a backpack, powering a cannon to, you know, maximize that passing 2++ ability of the best thrower in the game. And then you've got the Rat Ogre. Now, this Rat Ogre is not only just a brilliant sculpt, it is a clever one as well. That's one of the potential ways to build it, but Brutefun has given you a choice of arms and a choice of heads and a really good little plug system, and it works brilliantly. There's also 2 body types. One of them has got mechanical tentacles. Okay, so the kind of halfway between Dr. Octopus and like Chain Link. And it's so cool. Then we got a pair of gutter runners. So there's only 2 gutter runners in this set. Obviously you need 4, but you can just mirror or clone if you don't want to wait till next month. Now, I'm running this team next weekend at Beachhead, so this fulfills me perfectly, and it means that next month I can just pad out, add the rest of the positionals as they land, and it's actually a good tapering way to kind of build and paint your team. Now, the 2 gutter runners, we've got one here with spring legs, which is really quite an interesting one. You've got the overall vibe of a standard gutter runner. In fact, the gutter runner cloak is very similar to the Games Workshop style, which makes a lot of sense because Skaven have a Skaven style, which is rat ninja assassins with a cape. Straight out of Warhammer Fantasy Battle 5th, 6th edition. Absolutely beautiful. And you got a very cool guy here. He's got robot legs as well. So the gutter runners, I think, building on the fact that they are movement 9 and just some of the best catchers in the game, they've got their robot legs, and it's such cool positioning. Now, you've got the Storm Vermin here, who looks like a Storm Vermin. So that is the Skaven Blitzer, used to be called Storm Vermin, and this guy just looks straight up Storm Vermin. But he's got a bionic hand, and there's a cool alternate mask, a kind of full-faced helmet that matches in with the full-faced helmet of the Rat Ogre. Now, we'll have a look at that when we look at the prints, because those are the ones I went with for my team. And then you've got a very cool mixture of linemen here. And the 3-point stance is awesome. This guy just looks... he's in that kind of video game pose, you know, where there is a standing pose, mostly for fighting games, where they stand in one place. and they chug, and they chug. That guy just looks like he's on a loop, which fits perfectly. He's prime for a mirroring, so if you want to maximize your team right now with these STLs, you can just mirror him, so he's facing, instead of going this way, he's facing this way, and you've got two sculpts that look very similar, sure, but are slightly different, and they're line rats. It doesn't matter. But one line rat that does matter is your line rat that gets kick. And he has arrived here. So while there's only kind of half the positionals you need for the team, you get the extra positional here in the kicker to be your line rat. And it's perfect. And then next month, you got the rest of the gutters. You've got another thrower. You've got another blitzer. And some more linemen. Oh, and probably some star players too. I say probably. Definitely some star players, but we'll just have to see how much fun and time Brutefun gets. So let's have a look at the STLs and the prints. Okay, so the first one we're going to look at is that thrower, because I love the style of this. This is so good. So in the Blood Bowl 2 game, you've got this, the thrower for the Underworld team has got this kind of drill arm and cannon arm, and this fits in perfectly with that aesthetic. And that makes me so happy because it's such a cool design. Now, on top of that, you get the kind of mad scientist element to Skaven. If you want straight up sewer rats, well, actually, he's already done some great sewer rats. I think the team's even called the sewer rats. Well, these guys have got this mad scientist vibe to it, and the thrower is just bang on the money. You've got the big warpstone backpack, but you've got the creative goggles. Like, this is just warpstone engineer all over. He's got the cannon arm that's linked to this big old backpack here, and there is a ton of detail. You even got a nice little bit of warpstone on the edge there. So as I'm painting mine up, that's going to be a feature for a little bit of object source lighting. Now, one thing I haven't dragged up here, but is just so cool, is you got this cannon bit, and it comes with a choice of like ball shooting out clouds if you want it. Now, I've left it off mine because I forgot to print it, because it comes as a separate element, but if you really want to just absolutely bling out your thrower, you can have one of them just shooting this ball out, and it comes with this smoke element to it, which is really, really, really cool. Now, overall, the style of these guys is just absolutely gribbly. They are a little bit slighter than I think the Games Workshop sculpts. We'll have a look at the sizings when we check out the prints in a minute, but it fits in with that mad tech aesthetic, which I love. And one thing that I have to bring up now, because I appreciated it when I heard about it. Actually, if we scroll down here, can we get the green elements? We can't get the green elements here. This tail has a flat point. Not only does the tail have a flat point, so that you've actually got 3 points where it touches the base. If you look at the way the tail is designed, it comes all the way back and connects to his body. I have had one tail breakage, and I've printed maybe 40 of these Skaven, and that was because I ripped off the supports without thinking. The fact that they have printed and the tails are still there is awesome. And as we look through the models, you'll kind of see that Brutefun, when he's sculpted them, has built in points to strengthen up the tails, which means that they are going to last way better on the pitch than your regular Skaven models. And if you've ever played with a Skaven model of any description at all, you will appreciate that for just being incredibly useful. Right, let's grab a pair of blitzers now, because I love the thrower. It's got that cool science vibe. But these blitzers are just absolutely storm vermin. Right, let's go Control A, and get rid of the blue hue, because it's not necessary. So this is Blitzer 1 and Blitzer 1 Alternative. Okay, this is the Blitzer here, and you've got the proper Skaven vibe. Very much gives you that Blitzer element. He's got the Blitzer armor, but you've got very cool tech bits. So he's got that armored claw on his head, on his hand. You've got the standard kind of Skaven helmet and Skaven pauldrons. I like that they kind of kept the aesthetic similar. And then you've got this tech element here where he's got the pressure gauge, he's got tubes going in, and he's got this augmented tail that, again, even though he's running on 1 point, he's running on 1 foot, you get an extra point of contact to the base. Games Workshop need to really pay attention to this, because this is just such a useful thing. Now, it's cool that he's got an augmented tail. I like that, but that extra point of contact's just brilliant. The posing's wonderful as well. Like, it's just a really well sculpted Skaven model, but the alternate head is just so cool. I know the only thing he's got is this like fang guard, but the fang guard is just so cool. He's like a Skaven Bane. I couldn't resist. I had to where's my guy? I had to print out this guy for my Beachhead team. We'll have a look at this in a second. It's just something about it that just makes him look armoured as you like, and I just really love that one. So that's the Blitzers. That's the Blitzer for version 1. And then who should we look at next? Oh no. Oh, I forgot that there was an alternative to Runner 2. Now we're going to have a look at Runner 1 real quick. So this is one of the first gutter runners that we saw coming out of this set as it was being developed. If you're not a patron of Brutefun, I'd recommend it because you get access to the STLs, but you also get access to early insights at his madness. So I feel like this Skaven team befits him beautifully. You get these kind of springy legs, the robot, full-on robot legs there. This guy is like a T1000 of Skaven, and I love it. But you've got classic gutter runner posing as well, so it's not going to be difficult for your opponent to go, what is that? They're going to look at that and go, oh, gutter runner. And then when they knock it over and knock it stunned, they're going to look at it and go, oh dude, he's got robot legs, that's so cool, because that is exactly what this team is going to do. It's going to look so good on the table. They're going to look at it and go, cool Skaven team. And then as the game goes on, your opponent or whatever is going to look at it and go, oh, I really like that, that's really cool, like cool mechanical bits, oh, I like the glowy bits, I like the way the tail loops back around and becomes part of the sculpt, so it's not just sticking out there waiting for absolute certain doom. So really big fan of that gutter, and I'm an even bigger fan of this gutter here. Now there's an alternative sculpt for this gutter as well, so like I said, you can mirror horn. He's got a horn on one of them and he doesn't have a horn on the other. That is the difference there, and that's the cool thing about the way Brutefun does things, is you're going to have these alternates as well. Which one did I go for my team? I did go for the horned guy. Excellent. So I like to see that. I love this model. It's posed very similarly to the Forge World Games Workshop Skaven gutter runner. Man, that's a bunch of syllables, but it's just better. Like, the posing similar. You've got this kind of Batman cloak thing going on, which is wicked and looks great on the tabletop, and is going to allow a nice bit of painting, so you can add some stripes or some logos or whatever to the inside of the cape if you want. But look at the beautiful work of the robot legs. The robot claw legs here, it's just awesome. Absolutely flipping. Oh wow, I did not know you could do that. There you go, check that out. That, I absolutely love this. You've got more tubes, you've got more kind of bottles and like chaotic technology apparatus. I love it. But the beautiful thing here is you've got a nice wide spot for the model to touch the ground, and that tail is another point of contact, and it loops back around to be a part of the sculpt itself, which makes it very resilient, which is good, because that would have been embarrassing if it hadn't been resilient. And like I said, there's alternate sculpts there, so you've got the horned guy, you've got the non-horned guy, and if you're a 3D printer, you click the mirror button and then you click that one, this one here. Oh, look at that, I've got the guy facing a different direction. So it's not exactly right, but when you're looking at patrons that do this month by month in kind of like a old dinosaur magazine way, where you collect it but just without bankrupting your family, you can hustle a team onto the pitch if you need to by mirroring it, but really, print half, paint half. And by the time you've done that, it's the next month anyway, and you're good to go. So we've looked at the gutters, we looked at the blitzers, we got a few line rats as well. Where are my linemen? Here's my first lineman. I like the lineman sculpts. We'll just have a look at this one here. Or just, oh no, all right, we'll bring the kicker up in a second. I mean, this is just an absolute basing person's dream. Look at that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points of contact for the base. Oh boy, that is very useful. A one-piece sculpt is just beautiful, and again, the aesthetic of the team carries through. The tail loops back in there and is part of the foot as well, so it's going to be resilient. The end of the tail is the only bit of vulnerability, but it's going to be stuck to the base, so again, you're going to survive, which makes me very happy. You've got more pressure gauges and this kind of stuff, and this is what you're going to see with my team, is that you can paint this up super quick, or you can take your time and pick out the details. It's an absolutely brilliant mix, and I love the damage to the armor and stuff like that as well. So that's one of the line rats. Before we look at the Roger, let's see if we can find the Kicky boy as well, because it is a very cool model. Here we go. Kick. The kicker has got a robot leg. He's taken a big old swing. You've got another beautiful way of sculpting this tail here. I'm sorry if this is stupid for me to keep reiterating this, but as a Skaven coach, tails are just doomed. And the fact this loops back in to give it extra strength with a really tasty point of contact on the pitch is just... this is a model built by somebody who's actually used the models, and just 20 points to Gryffindor for that bad boy. Right, 20 points to Clan Scryer, I should say, and this is only half of the team. Great kicking pose. My kickers always die. I've just got a kicker actually on my Blood Bowl team, and I've got a league game next week, and I'm very sure that Rat McAfee is going to die. But this sculpt here is absolutely beautiful. I haven't put kick on my guys for Beachhead. I haven't, and if I change it now, Milton will murder me. But that's a pretty good skill. Probably should have done that. What did I go for? Block on a gutter and tackle on a blitzer. That's really boring, Ben. Anyway, what's not boring is rat ogres. So, plug for the head, plug for the hand. We'll have a look at both of the bodies, and then we'll have a look at the assortment of heads that you can go in there and plug in. So the difference between these two bodies is this mechanical tail element. So you got one mechanical tail on the standard rat ogre, and then you've got the tentacles version who has got a plethora of tails. Now I went with that version for my team because, again, more points to contact the board, and it's just really cool and interesting. This is kind of like, this is just the better version of it. This is great, but the tentacles is even better from a sculpting point of view. It's just so clever, and it sweeps around and just gives your model just a more hench vibe. But I mean, we'll get rid of that. We'll get rid of him for now, and we can focus on this model. Delete. There we go, and then we'll scoop in here. Scoop, and you can see that there is a ton of detail going into this model. You've got the patchwork skin. You've got the blending of the tubes going into him, just all over the shot. This is just an absolute Warhammer beast. It just hits the flavour so right. This is like Frankenstein's rat, and I'm here for it. This is just such good fun. Right, I'm zooming around this like a lunatic. Let me centre it. There we go. Better job there. You've got stitches for your snitches, and you've got all of the cabling and all of the hardwiring for the rat ogre model as well. It's just awesome, and because it is brute fun, and because he is an absolute mad lad, you get absolute selection of heads. 1, 2, 3, 4 heads and 2 hands. Let's chuck them into the pot and have a quick look at your variety that you get. So the hands are hand, which is this guy, and claw, which is this guy. Now it's very similar. The claw is just beaten. It kind of looks like you can paint that up to be chunks of warp stone, which I hadn't actually appreciated, which is pretty cool. Which one did I go for? Warp stone fingers. This is going to be more fun to paint. There you go. I've printed a bunch of them. I've undercoated on, and I still didn't notice all the details in there. I love this. This is just straight up Chaos Space Marine Terminator hands on a rat ogre, and these are the different head styles. You get standard head, here we go, with tubes because he's a rat ogre. Nailed it. You get the same kind of head, but with these sparky bits and spikes and horns on top. The plugs into the neck are perfect. I printed them. Did I have to do any tidying up? I don't think I had to do any tidying up at the plugs, which is very rare for resin, so that's beautifully measured. And then you got these two heads, and this is what I mean about the Blitzer having that alternate helmet. It ties so nicely into this. And what this does is this gives this rat ogre an almost War Machine, like War Machine and Hordes kind of, I don't know, Warjack vibe, which is just so cool because we haven't seen that on the Blood Bowl pitch. And you get this rat ogre, which is just one of the best big guys in the game, and now he's got this really different aesthetic of like tech, and it's so cool. And these heads are really good. They are kind of similar to the Storm Fiends that were for Age of Sigmar. Absolutely love it. Love the two different versions. You get one which is the Horns guy, which is the one with the big blade, which is absolutely, of course, the one I went with for my guy. But it just opens up more space for your team colours, and that's why I like it. That's why I like kind of the bigger helmets and the bigger shoulder pads, is because you've got the grungy brown of your standard model, and the flatter areas allow you to put the team colours on there, which gives you a nice bit of contrast and just makes the model overall look much better. So 4 different heads, 2 different arms, 2 different bodies, one amazing sculpted rat ogre. Okay, let's have a look at some of the prints, and I'm going to show you some of the resin prints and I'm going to show you some of the primed models that I'm painting up for Beachhead, because I flipping love this team. Right, this is one of the Blitzers. I printed these, I don't know, probably on the Saturn 2. Yeah, Saturn 2. Let's go with the Saturn 2. I printed some on the Mars 2 Pro as well. Just the models are so nice, it doesn't massively matter. Right, pre-supported. Brutefun has got somebody doing pre-supports. I have pre-supported my own because I was early to the party. I've shared my pre-supports with Brutefun as well, so if so you kind of got two to pick and choose from. And this is where it begins, and this is where the fun starts. So this is the Blitzer model, and you can see all of the gribbly, juicy, magical Skaven detail there, and it's just bloomin' lovely. I love everything happening on this model. The extra cable on the tail, the little dials, the little, it's perfect. The Skaven face and armor is perfect. The dagger on the top of the helmet, even down to just the triangular shape of the pauldron and the back armor. It's just magic. Where's my painted one? I'm using painted lightly because I have started painting this team, but so far I've got so far as to do my first coat of brown stuff, which is one of the contrast paints. It's my lazy boy painting method. Oh, I've missed quite a few bits. That's bad, actually. Games Workshop contrast paint. One thick coat? Not quite. Anyway, the contrast paint has picked out the detail on this model, I think, brilliantly. And I might have to do this for printer pictures going forward. I might have to be a bit more prepared, because this is a great way to show off the detail of the model. I mean, look at it. Look at all the detail you get. That helmet is the alternate helmet. It's the one I've chosen for the style. And this is one coat of contrast to just kind of form my undercoat. And then I'm going to pick out the details and stuff, the armor and the flesh tones and things, just to kind of pull it together. Although it looks like I'm gonna have to go do a bit of patchwork on the paint. I love they got the little stripe on the trousers too, so it's going to make it really easy for me as a lazy painter to pick out that detail and create a nice bit of pop. Anyway, model lovely, alternative sculpt very lovely. Let's check the scale comparison. I've got myself a Skaven lineman here. The base is from One Page Rules, I think. I just grabbed the most sewerish kind of base, and look at that. Right, lineman versus Blitzer. From a mass point of view, they're about the same. From a height point of view, the Blitzer's a little bit taller, but when you compare it to a strength 4 piece like the Black Orc, he is definitely not strength 4. So he fits in that nice category of good scaling and marries up with like the Dark Elf there at a size 3, strength 3, and just the scale is absolutely perfect, which I was over the moon with. If you've watched very many printer pictures, you'll know that. So the Blitzer model is good to go. 2 different versions. I love the full face mask one. Let's grab the thrower now. Now, I've forgotten to grab the cloud from his gun. It's just a cool little extra. I'm going without it, but it's a cool little bit that kind of comes with the kit, and actually you can have him with a cloud shooting out a ball, which I think is pretty great. And again, we can see the detail on the model's awesome. As you flip and rotate him, you can see all the fun bits of detail that have gone into this model. And I love it. I love the style, I love the goggles. Let's check out the Ben Brown version. Oh, it already starting to look so good. You can see all the kind of highlights and shading and dips and bits, and this is it. One bit of contrast kind of shows. Look, tell me you're looking at this and you're like, oh, that looks like fun to paint, to pick out the bits with bold colors, to just lean into the dirt and grunge. It's just absolutely so good. Look at the cannon, all the little details. And again, I kind of talked about the mounting points onto the bases. Really good. And wow, I need to do better job with contrast, don't I? One thick coat, I'm just missing loads of stuff. That's embarrassing. Right, thrower is good. Let's grab a pair of gutter runners. There is 3 gutter runners in the set. 2 of this one. One guy has a horn. One version has a horn. One version doesn't. This is the version without a horn. And again, you can see all the details come out really nicely. That's me trying to sort of fade off any kind of marks. And here's the other guy with spring legs, which it's a great running gutter runner pose. The thrower, scale-wise, works nicely with the Blitzer. He's where you want him to be, and if you sort of size him up to a Skaven, he's a bit taller, but not massive. Not when you kind of consider the size. the mass of the model, especially when you compare him to something like a strength 4 piece. Even though he's got a chunky old backpack, he does not look like a strength 4 bruiser. He is definitely smaller. Now the gutters, again, scale wise, work really nicely. There's my gutter runner. There's my gutter runner. And this is my one. I've gone with the horns version of the robo leg guy, and I'm terrified to... There it is. There's the bit of mix. Come on, Ben. You're contrasting your models and you're missing loads of white bits. It's like old school painting. Anyway, it's just a cool model. And again, if we do a little scale comparison to a random Skaven, he's in scale. And when you line him up with a Dark Elf, he's smaller than a Dark Elf, but he's flying through the air with his cape. It works nicely. They are a bit slighter than the Games Workshop ones, but it just comes across as being a better model because of it. They don't have the chunk of plastic models. There's no Hero Quest vibe. This is just top quality Skaven. So that is the Gutter Runner. Then we got some linemen. Then we'll do the Roger. Okay, the lineman. We got one lineman here. We got two linemen here. And the reason we got one lineman here is this is the 3-point stance guy. Absolutely love it. And again, as you kind of look at the print, it's just awesome. I got a big old stack of these kind of drying in the shed. In the lab, it just makes me so happy because they look like proper models. Now, I've got one of these linemen and I have... Oh. Maybe I haven't mirrored him. I thought I'd mirrored him. Oh well, there we go. You live and learn. So I was going to say, what you can do is you can mirror these models so that if you want multiple linemen for the first batch, you can do that. And I'm sure I have done that. I just can't remember. I must have just brought the wrong model out. Anyway, the point is you can mirror it and you'll have two models that look very similar. And it's going to be okay for starting out your team. In fact, I have mirrored it. Here we go. So this is my primed model and I've mirrored him. So even though they're very similar for the first month, you're waiting for the second month and we've already started to see what Brutefun's working on for the rest of the Skaven. It gives you enough variation. I mean, they're linemen. They're going to die because they're Skaven linemen. But again, with my poorly primed one, you can see the detail and you can see that these are going to be an absolute delight to paint. And that is so exciting. So that's the lineman. There's balls. Where's my kicking boy? There's a kicking boy here as well. I can't help but show off. Great dynamism. Cool robot leg. And again, you need to do a better job than I do if you're going to be priming your models like this. But hey, what can I say? And again, we'll do the versus scale for versus size for. It's got the height, but he has definitely got the slight compared to a size 4 model, a strength 4 model. So that works out really nicely too. Okay, it's the Rat Ogre time. So what we got here, Rat Ogre wise, is the single tail version. I've got the triple tail tentacle version over here. We'll look at that in a second. But the model comes, you print it, it looks great. You got a ton of detail. You got a plug for the head and you got a plug for the hand. And hand wise, it just comes like this. So this, I think, is the standard version of the hand, and it just kind of slots in. Because it's resin, it might swell, but actually, you can kind of just plug it in. I would recommend gluing it, but it's nice to see that it comes and fits in really nicely. And we got a variety of heads as well. So there's standard head with horn, there's standard head without horn, and there's wicked metal mecha head without horn too. We've got the horn one in a second, we'll show you, but I mean, you can see I've kind of been chucking stuff in there, just kind of plugs in. So especially when you print this or when you get it from our shop, you get all the options, so it doesn't really matter which one you fancy. You could even probably fandangle it and magnetize it, but they're all great options and I'm really pleased to see that. And you know what Brutefun's like? I would not be surprised if he didn't do kind of a two heads version or a tentacles version out of the hand or something like that. You know what he's like. And I feel like I might be baiting him by saying that because I know he watches these. Dude, beautiful models. Look at the Storm Fiend looking boy. So gone with the Warpstone Claws option. I've gone with the spiked helmet head option and I've given it a very bad contrast wash just to start my painting for my squad. I've got a week. Easy, right? And it is just a beautiful model. This is the cool tentacles version with the 3 metal tail bits. I just love it. It's just so good. I am going to have so much fun painting this. I already have started just with a single coat of wildwood brown or whatever. It's already started to just look awesome, and that I think is just so exciting. Scale wise, let me grab this 3-point stance lineman. The Rat Ogre towers over the standard Skaven. I've put him on a 40mm base because you really should be basing your big guys on 40mm bases. If they don't need a 40mm base, they're not big enough to be a big guy. I know that's kind of slanderous, but hey. Right, comparing him to a Black Orc, he's got height, he's got mass, he's just bigger. Now, he's not as gigantic as you kind of can make him, but it doesn't need to be any bigger than this. Any bigger than this, it'll be difficult on a pitch. That's not true. You could scale him up to 110% and it would be fine, but this is one of those examples where I actually think, because of the mass of the model, because of the way he ranks up to the rest of the team, he's actually bang on at 100%. If he was 110%, which is absolutely fine, you'd struggle to fit him on a 40mm round, which again, not the worst thing in the world, but 100% is the sweet spot for this model. And that's coming from me, and I love scaling up my big guys. Let's compare him to a Skaven lineman, and you can kind of see what I mean. He's plenty big enough. He towers over strength 4 pieces, he towers over strength 3 pieces, and poor old goblins, because this model, you are going to see this model, and you are going to see this model regularly. This is the best Rat Ogre model, I think, out there. Now, I mean, Bruties keeps making awesome Rat Ogre big guy models, but the fact you got the different head choices, it's just so cool. I want a Rat Ogre team in Blood Bowl now. I think it's going to be garbage. Man, I am bad at painting. This is there's a life lesson there. But you can see all the details come up really nicely with just a single coat of contrast. You've got all the stitches, all the mechanical bits. And the beautiful thing about these models is you can kind of grunge them brown and pick out the details. Or you can spend your time picking out everything on here that deserves to be picked out. I love it. This is so good. There you have it. I've gushed for about 45 minutes on one half of my new Skaven favourite Skaven team. The Rat Ogre is amazing. The gutters are perfect, and I gotta call out that if you have picked up a Games Workshop Skaven team, the gutters will fit in nicely with the Games Workshop Skaven team. So if you are looking to get Gutter Runner 3 and Gutter Runner 4, then actually picking up one each of these two models, you're set. That's everything. You're good to go. You kind of fixed out your team. If you're looking for a Rat Ogre, you've got this one to go with. And this is kind of where we're starting to live now. As a team, after release 1, it works. The Rat Ogre, tick. Thrower 1, Blitzer 1. You can mirror them, and you've got 2 of each. They're slightly different, but if you're not able to wait 3.5 weeks for release part 2, you can do that already. The gutters, you mirror them, you take one with horns, one without horns, and you're good to go. And it already looks much better than the Games Workshop team. I'm running this in 7s Beachhead. Spoiler alert, I'm running Skaven. And I've gone with the Roger, I've gone with the Thrower, I've gone with 1 gutter, 1 Blitzer with the alt head on him. You've seen this big boy. And then I need 4 line rats, so I've gone 1, 2, 3. Oh, I need 3 line rats. There you go. But I've mirrored both of these guys, and actually, as a collection mirrored, the linemen look great, especially old 3-point stance. Just 4 of those guys, 2 of each. It blends in really nicely. So if you want to use one release and make your Skaven team, the Blitzer mirrored and the Thrower mirrored will be probably the biggest challenge. The linemen are good to go though, and the gutters are excellent. So I love this, and I cannot wait for release part 2. Patreon. I don't know if he's got a My Mini Factory tribe. Maybe he does. I don't know. But Brutefun, I'll put the link in below. And if you don't have a 3D printer and you want to pick up a team or a set from us, then actually we're in the link below as well. Because these are just fantastic models. They're a great alternative to the standard Games Workshop kit. And I couldn't be happier. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you think below. And we'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy printing. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to support the channel even further, please like and subscribe. It really does help us out. Or come join us on YouTube Members or in Patreon, where you can get exclusive access to some content, some loot, early access to basically everything we do, as well as regular competitions. or you can pick up some Bonehead Podcast loot either on our website at boneheadpodcast.com. We've got the Dungeon Bowl things, we've got tokens and stuff like that, or on our Spreadshirt site as well. Everything you do just helps us make more content and hopefully do it of better quality. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Happy blocking.